incidences of black people being separated, excluded, or refused equal access to opportunities and services like education, work, housing, transit, immigration, healthcare, and businesses throughout Canada's history. Historically, racial segregation of black people in Canada was maintained by legislation, judicial rulings, and societal conventions. Until 1870, for example, black people could not take an oath to attain a status of a free man. They were not permitted to practice a trade or sell products in the city. They were not even permitted to fish in the St. John Harbor and were not permitted to dwell inside the city borders unless they were engaged as a servant or a laborer. How sad. In the mid 19th century, many black Canadians were racially separated in primary schools. Ontario and Nova Scotia established legally separated schools to keep black and white kids apart. Black kids were required to attend different schools or at different hours. According to history, access to colonial land grants and residential homes for black Canadians were frequently restricted based on race. For instance, several black people, loyalists in Nova Scotia and Ontario, did not get promised land grants. Over time, this institutional discrimination has led to high concentration of black people in specific communities in major Canadian cities such as Montreal. Racial segregation has also spread to several fields of work in Canada. Regardless of their educational attainment, black men and women were historically limited to service industries. Historically, white company owners and even provincial and federal government organizations did not recruit or promote black individuals so they were limited to menial jobs like being barbers. In the military service during the World War, black men were not enlisted because they tagged it as a white man's war. White soldiers were not willing to fight alongside black soldiers. Commercial establishments such as movie theaters, barber shops, and even restaurants did not open their doors to black people as well. Even in death, the black people suffered discrimination and segregation. The Campbell Cemetery in Halifax, Nova Scotia, had a colored section where veterans of Number 2 Construction Battalion were buried. It was a policy of St. Croix Cemetery near Windsor, Nova Scotia, that no Negro or colored persons shall be buried in the St. Croix Cemetery. Even in death, these people were discriminated against. For transportation, racial restrictions in public accommodations extended to some form of public transportation. In the 1850s, black people were barred from purchasing cabin class tickets on a steamer in Chatham. Historically, discrimination, racial segregation legislation, and widespread social practices have constrained the liberties of black British subjects and later black Canadian citizens. They make black Canadians second class citizens while providing white Canadians access to futures of citizenship that were previously held solely for them. Now it seems like there's light at the edge of the tunnel. Canada's charter rights and freedoms, along with provincial and territorial human rights laws, provide for the right to equality and prohibit discrimination on basis of race, ethnicity, and religion. Does this mean discrimination doesn't still happen in broad daylight? It does. On the 9th of November, the Honorable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, Honorable David Lametti said, "We are committed to fighting systemic racism and discrimination, which continues to be painful realities for the Black communities. We are working to develop Canada's Black Justice Strategy in consultation and cooperation with the Black communities, provinces, and territories to help address this truth and overrepresentation of the members of the Black communities in the criminal justice system. By providing support to the Black Legal Action Center, we are helping bring systemic changes to address this unacceptable reality, he said. This investment will support our efforts to address systemic discrimination against Black and racialized Canadians and also improve access to justice and fairness in our justice system. In this project, we chose Black older adults between the ages of 65 to 75 years old. To us, it's not about knowing, but offering suggestions to coping and creating awareness about all sorts of discrimination against Black people in Windsor, Ontario, knowing that we've also had our own fair shares of discrimination based on our skin color. In 2019, Marks and Dow stated that the population of 65-year-old and over accounts for more than 15.6% of the total population of Black people in Canada, and this can be classified as a very significant number. The source provides a deep statistical understanding of the diversity of Black people in Canada. The Black population in Canada has doubled in size from 573,860 persons in 1996 to 1,198,540 persons in 2016, and 4% of this population are in Windsor, Ontario. Black population now accounts for 3.5% of Canada's total population, and 15.6% of the population is defined as a visible minority. According to the population projections from Statistics Canada, the Black people could represent between 5.0 and 5.7% of Canada's population by 2036. Children under the age of 15 represented 26.6% of the Black population, while those aged 65 and above represented 15.9% of the total population. And the top birthplaces were Nigeria, Jamaica, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. And Black indigenous people are more likely to report experiencing discrimination and unfair treatment in Canada than other population groups. This is particularly true when it comes to discrimination based on race, ethnicity, skin color, or culture. Nearly half, that's 46% of Black people aged between 15 years and older, reported experiencing at least one form of discrimination in the past 5 years, compared to the 16% of the non-Indigenous, non-visible minority population. Of all Black persons, 4 in 10 of them experience discrimination based on their race, skin color. Nearly half of the Black people in Canada experienced discrimination in the last 5 years. About 1 in 5 aged 15 years have experienced some form of discrimination or unfair treatment in 5 years preceding 2019. The prevalence of discrimination was almost 3 times higher amongst Black people compared to non-Indigenous, non-visible minority people. In this project, we identified 2 true life stories of Black discrimination that was reported by the media. This is a true life story of intimidation and discrimination of a 72-year-old Black woman in Windsor Regional Hospital. The 72-year-old woman was targeted because she was on her phone. She was being yelled at by the hospital staff, and the hospital staff asked her to stop receiving the call, and she was talking to her daughter. She was in an emergency situation. She needed help. She went to the hospital, and the hospital staff called the security on her to take her out. So a daughter that was on the phone was the one that saved the day, because every other person was on their phones in the lobby. But why was she targeted? She was singled out because she was Black. And
if her daughter was not on the phone with her, she might have been left on the curb to die. The second case was about Katrina Simonato, which happened in Windsor as well. It's happened in one of the long-term residents in Windsor. She claimed that her mother's experience was really bad and she faced systemic prejudice since a mother hasn't gotten proper treatment. Other p- she agreed that other patients that don't even have family members must be facing this kind of discrimination. The mother has dementia and resides in the St. Clair village, a facility that has been ravaged during the COVID outbreak, which killed about 63 residents. Her mother became ill with the sickness but has since recovered and she said, "You'll be surprised by how much discrimination is out there." She also said that her sisters and herself constantly had to advocate for their mom's health during the pandemic. This is another true life experience of a 75-year-old. What about the 63 resident that died? Would they have died if there were people constantly advocating on their behalf? I assume that maybe that number would have been lower, but it is what it is.
The impact of all of this is huge. Number one, the victim. It has physical and emotional impacts on the victim. Exclusion and rejection directed towards the victim by others for reasons that often they have no control over can cause extreme worry to the individual. It results in anxiety, sadness, depression, and a feeling of guilt and emptiness. This often translates into depression, loss of interest, eating disorders, and stress related ailment. We also have the social, educational, and financial impact. Discrimination, harassment, and victimization leave the individual confused and broken. Sometimes they go into drugs, they start taking alcohol, or may form their own opinion on others. They can develop certain hatred for certain people or withdraw from certain people. It can also affect them financially because they may lose their job, quit school, or even do poorly in school. And we also have the societal and business wise impact. Communities and businesses that fail to take up action against discrimination tend to be lower in productivity. And this is because people feel disgruntled and lose interest in working hard. They don't want to put in their best. It drops their morale, trust, and confidence. People with talent and exceptional skills and abilities are not attracted to these places because they don't want to be discriminated against. Also, in politics, people who face racial discrimination may regroup with some vengeance in mind against other groups. So, because now they're in politics, they feel they have power, so they can have power to oppress other people. This can fuel conflicts, social discord. Many conflicts and wars have actually started this way. Then the people that discriminate other people. There should be strict laws on discrimination that may be applied to individuals who have discriminate other people. There are no excuses for this. If you didn't know that your actions were discriminatory, then it's your fault that you didn't know. Employees and individuals can bring legal action on businesses or individuals who do the act, and there are no consequences. But now it becomes dicey, like in this case of this policeman. Please take some minutes to watch the video. Thank you.
He wasn't sure why he was being pulled over. According to his lawsuit, he slowed down and put his blinker on, indicating his intention to pull over, but didn't do so for another minute and 40 seconds, which he later explained was in order to find a well-lit area. Hearing these different commands while sitting in his car with his seatbelt on, Nazario began recording from his own cell phone and put his hands out the window as ordered. Turns out, Officer Daniel Crocker had not seen the temporary license plate taped to the back window of Nazario's brand new Chevrolet Tahoe. And seeing tinted windows and a driver not stopping right away, Crocker decided it was a high-risk traffic stop. But this was never explained to Nazario, who for several minutes continued to ask why he'd been pulled over.
What's going on?
How many occupants are in your vehicle?
It's only myself. Why are your weapons drawn? What's going on?
Get out of the car now!
I'm serving this country and this is how I'm treated?
Yo, well, guess what? I'm a veteran too. I learned to obey. Get out of the car!
Body camera footage shows Officer Joe Gutierrez, gun drawn, unfastening the Velcro around what may be his taser at this time.
What's going on?
What's going on is you're fixing to ride the lightning, son.
The lawsuit says Nazario thought ride the lightning meant he could be killed.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I
Yeah, you
ask you
should
what's
be.
going on?
Get out, now.
I have not committed any crimes.
You're being stopped for a traffic violation. You're not cooperating at this point right now. You're under arrest for, you're being detained, okay? You're being detained for
For a
obstruction of justice.
traffic violation, I do not have to get out the vehicle. You haven't even told me why I'm being stopped.
About 2 to 3 minutes in, Officer Crocker tried to open the driver's door. In his report, he wrote, quote, "When I attempted to unlock and open the driver's door, the driver assaulted myself by striking my hand away and pulled away from Officer Gutierrez's grip." But in his own body camera footage, Nazario is not seen striking anyone. Crocker's report also says that at this point, Gutierrez, quote, "gave several more commands to comply with orders or he would be sprayed with his OC spray, but no such warnings could be heard." Gutierrez just sprayed Nazario, still without either officer having told Nazario what exactly he was pulled over for.
That's up. That's
Get out of the car now.
I don't even want to reach for my seatbelt key.
Take your seatbelt off and get out of the car. You made this way more difficult than it had to be. Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
Please talk to
Get
me
on the
about
ground
what's going
now.
on? Can you please talk to me about what's going on? Why am I being treated like this?
You're
Why?
not cooperating.
If that could happen to a black man in uniform, what more a civilian, an older adult, a child, a boy, a girl, a youth, a middle-aged man, a middle-aged woman? What is left? I think it saddens my heart to see this happen.
In Windsor, Ontario, we have services like Also, Pyramid, Bayshore Health Services that help the older adults of color in our society. I work with Bayshore Health Services, which is a government telehealth system that assists older adults in the Windsor Essex community. They seem to understand that older adults with color tend to feel more comfortable with people from their race and ethnicity, making them feel more comfortable while receiving telehealth care. Examples of such incidents was when I went to render services to one of our Bayshore clients. This had to do with a man of color. He was so happy on my arrival. I actually wondered why he felt so excited. Well, he explained to me that whenever another color of PSW, personal support worker, a Caucasian white, was sent to help him, they hardly touch him when rendering a sponge bath to him, which makes him feel so sad and unclean. Well, there are other examples that I can tell you about. There are services in the Windsor community that can help all older people of color in Windsor and its environment, One of them is the ISBP, which is known as Innovative Support for Black Parents. This initiative is being supported by the Ontario government for those living in Windsor and Essex environments, helping these older adults who are not on social media like Facebook, Instagram, to be able to relate and mix up easily and comfortably without feeling or missing why they are here. This institution was formed on the 24th of November 2019. Another one is the BCCEEP, which is Black Canadian for Cultural Education and Economic Progress. This particular organization helps older adults who feel they are retired but not tired to tend to do little businesses that can support young and older adults in their community. This will make them to know and feel that Windsor is a home away from home. This particular organization was created in September 2017 on the 20th day. For us to be able to close these gaps or reduce the gap and the threats, we have to continue educating both race, white and black, continually, not only in the health sector, but also in every area of our day-to-day activities, in stores, in mosque, in church, in social areas. If we educate our elementary students from as young as junior kindergarten, from their classroom daily, they will grow up into teenagers and adults, learning and understanding that people of color are not animals, but they are human just like themselves. It's just that they come with different color. For example, because I drive a white Bentley and someone else drives a red Bentley, it doesn't make Bentley less valuable because of its color. It still has the same engine, the same tires, and the same parts, which makes it a Bentley. In same manner, if we educate both young and old that we all are human, we all have red bloods flowing in all of us as human, the discrimination of color in older adults will reduce drastically. As a social service worker class, we have to start from constantly educating ourselves and having the ability to unlearn negative values and negative belief. Start relearning positive values and belief to help reduce or eradicate discrimination. Firstly, from our class that we are right now, we have diversity of different race, culture, religion. We have to start from ourselves because we cannot give what we do not have. It is not possible to sell what you don't have in store. It might look as if it is not possible to reduce discrimination, but there's a saying which says, little drops of water makes an ocean. If I embrace my classmate race, religion, and she embraces or he embraces other people's race and religion, we will start to reduce discrimination in our society.